how to explain my excitement for this book. Today we're gonna be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I will admit, for most of the questions I probably will mention 2 books instead of 1, maybe even more, because I cannot just reduce it to 1. I can't choose. You can't ask me to choose. I've read 37 books so far this year, and I thought it would be fun to answer these questions about the ones that I've read. We're gonna get right into it. Starting with the first question, which is the best book I've read so far in 2023. That would be The Reaper by Bookrecs. If you had told me this would be one of my top books, if not the top book of 2023, I wouldn't have believed you. Then I found the Darkverse series on TikTok, and a lot of people were talking about it, so I decided to give it a go. And I thought the first book was okay, I enjoyed it, and I decided to go for the second one and let that one be the one to let me decide whether I would continue the series or not. And then I read it and I thought about these characters for months. I still am. I read it in January, I think, and then the months following that, it was almost every day that Tristan and Morana were in my head. It almost gave me like that 5-star feel. So definitely The Reaper by Bookrecs. And I also wanted to mention Happy Place by Emily Henry, because that book, like any other Emily Henry book, it hit hard. And I absolutely loved the different conversations that were in that book. I'm not gonna talk a lot about it because I already did on my reading vlog of Happy Place, so if you haven't watched that, make sure to go back and watch it and you can get more in-depth thoughts. The second question is the best sequel I've read so far this year. Technically also The Reaper by Bookrecs, but for the sake of choosing different books for the questions, I chose 2 different ones. The first one is King of Pride by Anna Huang, which I just absolutely adored. I had a great time with it. It was not quite a 5-star read, but it was just so adorable, and I didn't expect the couple to be so wholesome, and I'm definitely gonna continue the series, so I'll be waiting for the next books. The other sequel that I've read, I actually finished it 2 days ago, is The Rebel King by Kennedy Ryan. This is part of her All the King's Men duet, I think it's called. She pitched this as a book that gave you Scandal vibes, like Scandal from the show, and I just couldn't help myself. I read the first one, couldn't put it down. I think I finished it in less than 12 hours, and then I had to wait until the second one came out because even though they've been out for a while, they came out with new covers, and I wanted to wait for that one because that's the cover I got for the first one. And I did, and I read it, and again, I could not put it down. The characters in this book are just on a whole different level. Their relationship is on a whole different level. Like, the best way I can find to describe these two is a power couple. That's what they are. Lennox and Maxime from The Kingmaker and The Rebel King. The third question is a new release that I haven't read yet but want to. Everyone and their mothers has probably already read Fourth Wing. Everybody. On Booktok, on Bookstagram, on Booktube, just everyone. And I have not, because I didn't get a copy of it before it sold out everywhere. So I'll have to wait for a little, but that is definitely a book that I really want to read and haven't gotten to it because I haven't been able to find a copy. That's what I get for being late for every single Booktok trend. Like, I'm still trying to catch up on the 2020 books that everyone recommended, and now they just keep coming. So Fourth Wing. And if any of you have read it, please let me know if it was worth it, because a 1 to 2 month wait on shipping, that requires patience. So let me know if you've read it, and if you have, let me know what you thought, whether it's good or bad. The next question is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I think you can tell by my face that I absolutely cannot wait for these 2 to come out. Mind you, there's a lot more, but I limited myself to 2. That's a lie. I limited myself to 3. The first one is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. The reason why I'm a bit more patient with this one is because we don't know the characters yet. Because if we did, I doubt that I would be waiting so patiently for it. The second anticipated release is The Long Game by Elena Armas. She's the author of The Spanish Love Deception and The American Roommate Experiment. I know a lot of people did not like the Spanish love deception, but I am gonna tell you, if there is something that you should know about me, is I absolutely fell in love with that book. I got it without knowing much about it. It was just getting momentum when I read it, and I read it on my Kindle first. I genuinely didn't even remember how I had found out about it, but I had put it on my Amazon list. So I decided to read it, and I just fell in love with that book. It is one of my favorite romances of all time. I also love that it's a Hispanic author. Ever since then, I've been excited for every single book that she releases, so I'm waiting for that one. And let me tell you, it's not easy when you go on Instagram and you see people getting both digital and physical arcs of it. It hurts a little, but I'll wait. And the last book I'm really excited for. I genuinely don't know how, but these characters have consumed my mind, and I don't think it's gonna go away until I have this book in my hands, because it also doesn't help that I recently found out that I really like second chance or like marriage in trouble trope in a romance book, and this is one of those books. That is King of Greed by Anna Huang. I'm gonna put a description of what is going on in my head right now and how invested I am. Do you see this in the middle? That's me. Then do you see this beautiful main character? That's Alessandra. And then like 10 feet away, that's Dominic. I don't know how to explain my excitement for this book, but mostly how much I am rooting for Alessandra, and we haven't even met them yet. Like, we've seen snippets in the previous Kings of Sin books, in King of Wrath and King of Pride, but they're on my mind 24/7. I don't know why, I don't know how, but they are. I absolutely cannot wait to get this book in my hands. The fifth question I was a little bit scared about. It is my biggest disappointment in 2023. I'll be honest, I actually almost didn't remember I had read this book if it wasn't because I logged it into my Goodreads. It all comes back to you. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it at all, but it definitely wasn't a great time. There was just something about the behavior of the characters that feels like, instead of young adult behavior, it's kind of like middle school childish behavior. And these characters were already graduated from high school and in college, or about to go into college. And I just couldn't believe some of the things the main characters did, especially regarding their family. Like, a lot of things that hurt their family, a lot of things that did not have to happen the way they did if they had just communicated. And I don't know, I couldn't enjoy this book that much because of it. I was not rooting for the main character. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just didn't have a really good time with this book. On the flip side, the next question is my biggest surprise. The Reaper by Runix also, but again, for the sake of having different books, one of my biggest surprises this year, if not the second biggest surprise, was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hipper. I don't know what it was, but I could not stop reading. I was giggling, I was laughing, actually laughing, I was smiling, I was rooting for the main characters all the way. I enjoyed the banter between the characters. Almost everything about this book was absolutely amazing for the moment I was reading it, and I had a great time with it. I didn't expect to like it so much. I had seen it had a moment on TikTok for a while, and then it kind of like dwindled, but I still wanted to read it because of how much I had heard of it, and it did not disappoint. If you haven't read it and you're looking for a young adult book to read, I recommend Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. My favorite new author. Can you tell where I'm going with this one? Runix. She wrote the Darkverse series, aka The Predator, The Reaper, which, you know, I've talked about already. I have read only the first 3 books. I have not been able to continue, but I have plans to continue. And I also want to read her standalone, Gothicana. I just haven't gotten around to it. She is definitely a new favorite author. I don't know what was in that book, but it worked for me. Question 8 is my newest fictional crush. I would definitely have to say Maxime from The Kingmaker and the Rebel King by Kennedy Ryan. I'd forgotten that I had the book with me, but now I'm showing you it. Here it is. This is the second book in the All the King's Men duet by Kennedy Ryan. You should definitely read this duet, not only because of the story it tells about Native American women, because of the romance between these two, but the writing in this book and their relationship is filled with not only love, but respect and admiration, not only as a couple, but because of everything they are professionally as well. They complement each other so well, and they were supposed to be opposites. Please go read it. I only had to say his name really to answer this question, and I started talking about the book. I'm sorry, Maxime Cade, that's who. Newest favorite character, Lennox Moon Hunter. She is so powerful and she does not relent. She fights for her community, for the people she loves. She does not cower. I'm really just using this moment to put this book in your TBR. And also, bear with me here, Morana from the Dark Verse series. Question number 10 is a book that made me cry. That would be Happy Place by Emily Henry. That book hit hard. At the same time, it felt like a slap in the face, and it had so much to do with things that happened in my life not long ago, and yeah. 11 is a book that made me happy. I'll say King of Pride again because I highlighted so much in that book. There were so many quotes and so many adorable moments. I was just giddy from the very beginning, so I just had a great time reading about Kai and Isabella, even more about the friend group that is kind of being created amongst the girls from this series. I just loved it. 12 is the most beautiful book I've bought or received this year. There is absolutely no question about it. Into the Churn. This is a special edition from Unplugged Book Box. I was lucky enough to be a rep for them for 3 months before the summer started, and I got this book in one of the boxes. It's a sci-fi slow burn romance, which is also on my TBR because how is this not on anybody else's radar? How is it not in my radar? The reason why this is the most beautiful book I've received this year is because of all the things it has, including the sprayed edges. I genuinely hope you can see them clearly, but if not, I'll maybe insert a clip of me like showing them to you later in more detail. But first of all, look at this. This is absolutely stunning. Second of all, there is foiling on the hardback. Look at this. I'm pretty sure it has like the name or last name of the main characters here. So this is one of the main characters, and here's the other one. I mean, this is just a gorgeous naked hardback. It's absolutely stunning, and the end pages, are you kidding? And not only that, what made me want to read it so bad is what's underneath the dust jacket, which is a character art for the book. You cannot tell me that you see this and you're not at least a little bit intrigued. Sorry, I had to get up and check that it was still filming because I was getting a lot of notifications and I got scared. We're almost done, so don't leave me. I kind of really need you, otherwise I'm just gonna keep talking to myself about the books I read, and that's not very healthy. We actually have one more question left. What book or books do I need to read by the end of the year? I'll start with the ones I have. First one is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have heard so much about this, and I've also heard so much about the anxiety representation for this book. It's specifically social anxiety, and I just really want to read about this because I read Part of Your World, which I think is the first part of this. Like, they're not the same characters, but they're kind of like connected, and I really enjoyed it, so I really want to get into this before the end of the year. The next book I definitely want to read before the end of the year is Babel by R.F. Kuang. If you saw one of my earlier videos, you know that I started this book. I actually got to page 70, I think. Oh, 80. I got to page 80 and there was so much going on at the moment that I could not give my full attention to this book, which is something I really want to do, because often what happens is when I'm not giving it my attention, I will read 2 pages, and then 3 days later I'll read 20, and then 2 weeks later I'll come back and read 5 pages, and then a month later I've forgotten about the book, or I don't feel the same way I felt at the beginning. So I waited until the summer, so right now, to be able to read it and give it more of my time. And so I definitely want to read this before the end of the year. If possible, before the end of the summer. Another book I really want to read before the end of the year, possibly before the end of the summer too, is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I cannot keep up with Booktok or Bookstagram or Booktube. You all are fast. People have read her entire backlist already, and I haven't even started this. Someone sent it to me, and they are the sweetest, and I'm so thankful to them for giving this to me. And I have not started it. I haven't started it because, again, especially with fantasy books, I don't want to be able to not give them my attention and then forget about them because I'm not reading them somewhat consistently. I think this is actually going to be my next read. I've said that like 10 times on TikTok. I don't think people believe me anymore, but now it is, because this is going to be in one of my next videos. So stay tuned for that. Lastly, 2 books I don't have with me. One I've mentioned before, which is Fourth Wing. I want to read that before the end of the year. And the other one is actually a series I just started. I recently read the first book, and I will talk about it more in my wrap-up. But I started the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver, and I had a great time with the first book. I really enjoyed it. I got so invested in the characters, and I already saw aesthetic videos and quotes for the next books in the series. So I'm absolutely getting the next 3 books. It's 3 more books. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your answers to one or more of these questions. I would like to know how your year is going. I will see you in my next one.